Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay. We got Jacob in Wisconsin. We also got Dane Stromstad in the house. Everybody sit up straight. Act like you've been here before. Okay?
Here's the guy.
How we doing, gents? We're 7 days away. This time, 1 week from now, they will say the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. I don't know about you guys, but I am fired the heck up, man.
You guys fired up? Ready for Goody to trade that first pick?
Dude, I'm extremely excited. I have a very nervous excitement though, just because of what you just said. I mean, you guys know I wouldn't mind if we traded back, but just the anticipation. I don't think I'd feel great if we went Simmons with 23. What would you think about that, Tim?
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't feel terrible, but I don't know if I'd feel great. Honestly, feel better about.
Get ready to go.
Sorry, I had to hit you with it. Yeah, so we'll get into a little Josh Simmons talk here on the back side of the show for sure, or a little later in the show, I should say. So it's just interesting that he's the one offensive lineman that the Packers have met with that kind of line up with what would be a first-round pick, although they're all over edge, they're all over D tackle, they're all over wide receiver. So we'll kind of dive into all that. I want to hit this comment real quick first, though. As Greg Rice in the chat says, FanDuel, cornerback is the slight favorite at plus 170, while defensive line / edge rusher is at 185. Wide receiver is the third most likely position at plus 430, followed by offensive lineman at plus 470. So when you kind of look at that across the board, it makes sense. It really does, man. And when you look at corner, we talked about it from the get-go. If you don't get that corner within the first couple of rounds, you're probably going to be clawing trying to find one little later. So this kind of lines up with what we talked about there. And then, of course, defensive line and edge rusher. Tim, the writing seems to be on the wall with Goody being very, very interested in somebody up on the front on defense.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And there's a lot to pick from. We talked about the depth, especially with defensive tackles in this draft. So, he can probably get a better pick of the litter, for lack of a better term, if he goes early, but there's no guarantee that he will. He doesn't necessarily have to go D-line right away. We've done a few mocks where we found some good talent, even into the fourth round, it seems, with some of these defensive tackles. So it'll be interesting to see what his game plan is. I do know this. I still have no idea what he's planning on doing with that 23rd pick, but I'm looking forward to the first round for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Jacob? What do you think about these odds, man? Does anything kind of stick out to you?
I'm a little shocked that offensive line is where it's at. I mean,
yeah.
If you're just deciding that, based on what happened last year, that it's not as likely, but it's about right. I guess it's about right where I would maybe put things. Maybe, yeah, nothing too crazy there.
All right,
watch us go and draft something completely. I mean, what else would surprise you off this list that they don't really have? A safety? Would that have to be the biggest surprise? Linebacker, maybe safety.
Yeah, something else that's not listed is tight end.
Tight end, yeah, there you go.
If we're truly looking for another legit weapon, and then let's say Tet McMillan's gone, let's say Matthew Golden and Emeka Egbuka's gone by the time you pick, and that means that one of the tight ends fall. Let's say it's Colston Loveland. Man, that might be the route you go, and I don't know what the odds are, Jeff or Greg. I'm sorry if you want to look at the odds on tight end, but if it's something like over plus 1,000, probably wouldn't be a bad move if you're gonna belt multiples on these, and a lot of people do that, because you can go with three different positions and come out pretty profitable if you hit on one, and you hit on tight end that first overall pick or whatever for the Packers. That can be huge for sure. When you look at the draft board here, fellas, and we've got it sorted by top 30 visits, and just to kind of recap and remind everybody what all these colors and everything mean.
That's a Jake was asking.
Yeah. Is there a table and what the color? Yeah, there you go. So here's essentially what you got. What you really want to key in on are the gold. Okay. These names in the gold: Shamar Stewart, Walter Nolan, TJ Sanders, Trey Amos, Jordan Birch, Jacob Bayer, Ty Felton, Anthony Belton, and Taylor Elgersma. Okay. When you look at those players, and keep in mind the number on the right or the number on the left is showing you where their value is. So when you hear Taylor Elgersma, people going, "What are you talking about? We drafted him in the first 3 rounds." No. He's way down the list. This is just sorted by top 30 visits. Okay. So if they've got the target, that means they were a top 30 visit. If they've got the heart eyes, that means they meet the athletic threshold. Okay. The green just simply means that's a tier 1 position of importance. Now we will overshadow that green with a gold if they meet what we call the gold standard. What that means is the Packers love Senior Bowl guys, and it also groups the Senior Bowl participants in with the top 30 visits. So that kind of makes them like, okay, these gold guys probably pretty high on the priority list would be my guess. Okay. Just based off of what we did, I think last year out of 11 picks, 8 of the picks participated in the Senior Bowl. Right. And we know the top 30 visits have been pretty large hit as well. So if you take those 2 factors, that gives you the gold. And if you notice the spade to the left, right here, the little spade icon, the emoji, that means not only were they Senior Bowl participants and top 30 visits, but that means they meet the athletic threshold as well. So you get all 3 of those together, and that shows these guys are primed for the pick. Again, it doesn't mean the Packers are going to draft them. It simply means if they're available right around where they're at on the board for the Packers, they're probably really, really high on their list at that spot. And what I mean by that is, if the Packers come up at 23 and Shamar Stewart and Walter Nolan are gone, that doesn't mean they're going to take TJ Sanders at 23, because if their board looks like ours, he would be in the 39 spot, and that'd be one hell of a reach. Same thing with Trey Amos. Now, I'm not saying that's where Goody's got him ranked. I'm just simply saying if the board did look like that, that's what that would be. So essentially what you've got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players. And we may not get any more top 30 visit information. The top 30 visits wrap up on April 16th yesterday. However, sometimes that information gets held back. People don't get it reported, right? And then you find out after the draft, oh, he was a top 30 visit. You'll hear Goody say, yeah, we had him in for a top 30 visit. You go, damn it, we didn't see that one. Nobody reported it, right? Because not everybody will put out a tweet. Not everybody will put out an Instagram story going, hey, I'm in Green Bay. And the Packers darn sure ain't going to go out to the public and go, hey, guys, we're meeting with so-and-so. They're just not going to do it.
That's why we're grateful for guys like Easton Butler keeping us informed,
Absolutely. So there's 25 people that we have of the top 30 visits so far. So essentially you could take those 9 that we just talked about and say those right there, and I've looked everywhere, you can't bet individually on players to go to a team. You might have a handful of sites that you can do that toward the top of the draft. But if I could go through and put a little action on each one of these gold names, I would do it. Because the odds would be astronomical, right? Like you could put a pretty good chunk down, spread it out over these guys. You're probably going to hit on 2 or 3, would be my guess. But with that being said, if you really wanted to narrow it down, those spades, we got that down to 5. So last year, for example, we narrowed it down to 7, right? 7 players. And of those 7, we ended up taking 3, I believe it was either 2 or 3, which is pretty good hit rate, right? So we're at 5 right now. Just keep that in mind. Did that answer the question? Does that make sense, guys? Did I explain that thoroughly enough?
I think so.
All right. Good deal. So, again, when we look at the odds, if we pull up Greg Rice's comment again, FanDuel cornerback is slight favorite 170. Who are they looking at? Well, let's look at the top 30 visits. Let's just start there, right?
Yeah, he actually revised that and said that he got fooled. He said that, I guess, AI lied. Defensive line, he updated the odds there, which make a little more sense to me, to be honest.
Okay, so it's defensive line / edge first, right, at plus 110. That makes sense, right? So if that's the case, who have the Packers met with? James Pierce Jr., Shamar Stewart, Walter Nolan, right? Tyleik Williams, also Michael Williams, right? Edge defender out of Georgia. So, I think TJ Sanders is a little bit of a reach for 23. So if you just go with those guys we just listed, starting at Tyleik Williams from the bottom, working back up, Tyleik Williams, it would be Michael Williams, Walter Nolan, Shamar Stewart, and James Pierce Jr. It's kind of, those are probably 4 or 5 that are kind of primed for the pick and at that 23 spot, if indeed those odds do end up working out, right? So that's how that would shake out. Now, if we move on to corners, which is plus 135, okay? So at plus 135, we got cornerback. The first one on our board is Savone Revel Jr. out of East Carolina in the 26th spot. And then you drop down to Trey Amos at 46. Now, again, they may have a first-round grade on Trey Amos, but on our board, that would suggest they would be trying to get him in the second round or probably have to trade up in the second round to grab him if they don't have a true 23 grade on him, meaning he's worthy of the 23 pick there in the first round. So those are probably the two guys that they're eyeing the most. And again, they may have another guy that they like a lot more, right? These top 30 visits. Most of the time, I was hearing Mike Tannenbaum talking about this earlier. And once again, everybody likes to ask these former GMs, do you ever try to bluff people? Is this smoke and mirrors? He said, absolutely not. That's what he said. He said, this is too valuable of information. You only get 30 of these. Typically, when they would bring people in for a top 30 visit, it means they had a couple more questions they need answered, right? And then that might determine whether or not they truly take them. It doesn't mean they would take them off their board. It might mean, hey, they would sink down on their board a little bit, or maybe they climb up a little bit on their board, right? But it just means they needed a little bit more information. So when you look at someone like Shamar Stewart, who may be there at 23, some people think he'll fall to the Packers, or Walter Nolan if he goes earlier. What I'm noticing is I don't think there are any of these top 30 visits that I go, Packers will probably trade up for them. Maybe Tet McMillan because he's in the 5 spot. So if he gets like within striking distance of, say, I don't know, if he drops to maybe 15 or 16, maybe the Packers have a package pre-set up like, hey, if Tet gets this far down, we're going to jump up and take him. Or maybe it's a James Pierce Jr. Could be that as well, right? I'm hearing a lot of buzz around Emeka Egbuka now. It seems like people caught on to him, like they really like him. So in terms of the offensive line, plus if that's true, plus 750, that's not bad there either, to be honest with you. Again, I don't know if I would feel good enough to put multiple action on defensive line, edge, and cornerback because you're kind of cutting into the profit there. But if you want to put a little action on maybe wide receiver, offensive line, which is a plus 750 and a plus 950, that'd probably be where you might be able to get a little bang for your buck. Linebacker, though, that safety at plus 4,900. Somebody's going to take that like Kevin Malone on The Office. What was it, John Cougar Mellencamp?
John Cougar Mellencamp ever wins an Oscar. I'm a very rich man.
I thought that was cool, though, Greg. I'm glad you brought up the odds there because it's important to kind of keep an eye on what Vegas is seeing, in terms of the odds of what player, what position, I should say, is being drafted first by the Packers. Anything else you guys want to add to that conversation? Anything stick out to you that I may be overlooking here?
Nah, I mean, I honestly, Backer might be one that could surprise a lot of people. What if, what's our guy from, Campbell? What if he were to randomly fall and just be there right at our laps? That'd be tempting.
Yeah, Jaire Campbell, listen, if he's there and the Packers feel good enough that, hey, we'll get him back sooner rather than later because of that torn labrum, I'll be okay with that. And I know people hate hearing that, but I think he's a stud. He's in the 22 spot on our board here, too. As you can see, now we're just back to the regular board. He meets the athletic threshold. The Packers have already met with him once. The blue simply means it's a position of tier 2 importance, which you guys know how I feel about that Mike Backer position, as well as safety as well. So, when you look at Jaire Campbell, man, that might be something the Packers don't have any questions on, Now, having the injury immediately following the combine, you would think they bring him in for a top 30 visit. They were interested to try to get a better look, get the doctors in there and looking at that shoulder a little bit. That would make a lot of sense, right? So, yeah.
But, can I ask you about Demetrius Knight Jr.?
Yeah,
South Kakalaki Gamecocks.
I like Demetrius Knight.
Yeah, me too. Where's he at on our board?
He's in the 71 spot. He was a team captain. He was a Senior Bowl participant. The only problem, Tim, is he did not meet the athletic threshold. Now, it doesn't mean the Packers wouldn't take him, but you guys know how they are about that, Yep. So that's an interesting kind of an interesting view on that as well. And some of the names, like we're in the 70s right now. We're looking at Benjamin Morrison. That one kind of pops to me. And you guys know I'm not very big on Benjamin Morrison. I think at the right spot, absolutely. But some people got him as a first-round talent. I just personally don't see it. But he's in the 75 or 74 spot. And the reason I say it kind of pops off the screen here to me is because he was a team captain. The Packers met with him, and he meets the athletic threshold. Kind of, pretty good chunk of what you're looking for there in a Green Bay Packer, if that makes sense. So, and we did add in a bunch of information from Dane Brugler's big board. It's interesting how you have to do with Dane Brugler. I'm going to call him out here as if he watches this show. If we have time to put together a board and rank them, Why the hell don't they have time to rank them? They just go to the top 100 and the rest is like, all right, we'll just put a round grade on. No, come on. Put your money where your mouth is. Let's and I love Dane. I think Dane is one of the best in the business, but what we had to do was go through and go, okay, once you get outside of the top 100 for Dane Brugler, you don't have them ranked in order. We just had to go off the grades and give everybody the same grade on that round, if that makes sense. So I went to the bottom of each round, so we're not cheating for these players. So like if it was a third round projection by Dane, we give him a 96, like he was ranked 96. Everybody in the third round, 96, so on and so forth, depending on the round in which he graded them. So. Yeah, but in terms of Demetrius, not Tim. I would be okay with it at the right spot. But
Sure.
Again, that athletic threshold is the thing that would probably hang you up a little bit. Senior Bowl and captain.
Yep. And look, PFF grades look good on him the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's just the athletic numbers.
Yeah, and the main thing that brings him down on our board is the consensus big board at the end of the college football season. They had him in the 177 spot, right? And we do not have a grade for him for Dane Brugler yet, or a ranking yet, because I haven't got the linebackers. So we went through, I think I got corners, I got edge, I got D tackle. I haven't done wide receiver yet, but been just kind of going through it and putting them all in. So, yeah. Jacob, you got any questions on the board here? And maybe a player you want to see, since it's shuffled quite a bit today, adding some Dane Brugler rankings in?
No, but, Eldegrim says you misread. It should be Sean Dolak at 23. I think Emilio.
There's Emilio
Burner.
That's it. He ain't in class tonight. Who you kidding?
Yeah. He's in class.
Is he in class? Is that where he is?
Yeah. He's updating his Excel sheet though. Don't worry. He's staying in there.
All right. Anything else? We're good on the big board, right, gents?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. I want to get in a little Jaire Alexander talk, just a touch. Jordan Love spoke on it earlier today. Tim, if you'll get me a screen grab ready, give me that Caleb Williams looking absolutely miserable. I kind of like him. That's one of my favorites. You'll pop that up there. This was Jordan Love on Up and Adams with Kay Adams on FanDuel earlier today. And let's hear what QB1 had to say about Jaire.
I'm sorry, I can't look at Caleb Williams, bro. I can't. Right. We gotta go with Tupac LaFleur today.
That'll work too. There you go. All right, so here was Jordan Love on with Kay Adams earlier today. This was on Twitter from the Up and Adams Twitter account. Make sure you go over there, give a like, follow, retweet, all that good stuff. She had an awesome interview with Jordan Love. Loved what he had to say about Aaron Rodgers. I just know it pisses the Aaron Rodgers haters off that he's still calling him his mentor. But anyway, here we go. Kay Adams and Jordan Love, asking Jordan Love specifically about Jaire Alexander.
Defensively, what's going on with Jaire? When's the last time you talked to that madman?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. I need to reach out to Ja, see what the deal is, but Ja, he's got his own world going on. I'm gonna let him handle his business and see what's going on. But that's my guy right there. He's definitely a player we need back. Just the play style he plays with and who he is on the field. I mean, that's a guy we need to have around. So we'll see what happens.
When you talk locker room fits with these draft prospects, 8 picks, like what's the locker room fit for Jaire? What would, like, if he leaves, what hole is that leaving?
I mean, locker room wise, he's a character. That's a guy that you never know what you're gonna get with Ja. He's always a guy that interacts with everybody on the team, and he jokes around, but he also has that serious side to him, and a competitor. And obviously, the player on the field is a whole nother area that we would be losing if we didn't have him. So, talking about rookies, to have a rookie come in and play at the level, I'm not there yet. We'll see. We'll work these guys out and try and see. But, I'm hoping Josh's still there with us. We'll see. But that's my guy right there.
All right. So obviously Jordan Love vouching for Ja. He absolutely loves him. And listen, I still don't know what to say about this Jaire situation, man. I really don't. Because it sounds like, they want to get rid of him. The fact that Spoon put out what he did the other day, and this is what Wildy said as well on his show. He's like, when you see that go out, and Tauscher kind of cut Wildy off and said it before Wildy could say it, Mark Tauscher was like, kind of feels like they want to, hey, don't forget, Jaire's on the market. Like, just get it to the forefront again, right? But it's kind of cool to hear Jordan Love, man. What a blessing it is to have him as a quarterback, because he never steps in it. I step in it all the time on this show. You guys know that. He's so guarded in his words, but he comes across likable and this
Yep.
and that.
And
I don't know.
genuine. He comes
Yeah.
across genuine too. You know, like when she asked him about when's the last time you talked to Jai, and he was honest. Oh, I don't know. It's been a minute. You know, I got to call my guy, check in on him. You know, he's doing his thing. I'm doing mine. But you know, they're great teammates. And I also like what he said about the locker room vibe. You know, Ja's the kind of guy that talks to everybody. You know, everybody on that 53. He's interacting with everyone, trying to hype them up. I think a lot of times that goes overshadowed by some of the other antics that we've seen from Jaire in the past.
Mhm.
And I think you know, the positive things that he brings to that locker room often don't get a lot of attention. So I was glad to hear Jordan bring that up today.
Yeah. What about you, Jacob? What do you think, man? I'm not expecting it to sway anybody's opinion. I just want to get your take on what Jordan said about Ja, man.
No, I'm updating my daily tracker. It is now hit 60-40. Jaire's going to stay. All right.
It's not 50-50. It's almost 50-50.
Sure, it's
Yeah.
not
65%.
65%. That's what we. Go ahead, Jacob.
I mean, honestly, probably think Len could have. It's listen to the team talk about him. Like, everybody loves Jaire as a person. It seems like we're just trying to figure out what's going on as far as what's in his head and if he's going to be able to put a bunch of drama and a bunch of nonsense aside and just show up and perform and be a good player again. I still would prefer him on the team if all things are equal. It seems like the closer we get to the draft, the more and more it seems in peril.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man, because, again, I know some people were expecting maybe a draft night trade. But the problem with that is, in my opinion, is like I think teams want to see what they can get at corner if they are indeed going to trade him, right? Like if they're going to trade for Jaire, they want to see, can we get one of our guys in the draft? Now, after the draft, they go, crap, we weren't able to fill that need. Let's go get Jaire Alexander. Now, that to me makes the most sense. But I'm still holding out a little hope, man. You could tell the team ain't sour on him. The teammates aren't sour on him. It just seems like Goody may have, you know, according to Spoon and just reading the tea leaves, and we know Spoon is plugged in with Goody. Maybe Goody is a little more like, hey, let's just move the heck on. And Wildy done a great job on the show the other day talking about, like, this is how Ted Thompson operated too. I didn't know this. I learned something on his show the other day. He said Charles Woodson was not even offered a contract. Like, they said that Charles Woodson was willing to take a pay cut, and Ted was like, nah, we're good. Hey, appreciate your service. Like, think about that. You know what I mean? Like that, and that was what, in 2013 or 2014, whenever it was. So sometimes, man, once that page is turned, it's turned. But I like the idea of Jaire returning because the majority of the guaranteed money is over now. And if he does miss time with injury, it's almost like you're trading him for next to nothing now. And the guaranteed money's pretty much up. So you can kind of, all right, you pay him for, when he's on the field, essentially. I know it's not that cut and dry, but you guys kind of get the point. So
yep.
The other thing with Jordan, since we were on Jordan Love Talk here, thought this was really cool. I seen it on his Instagram. He was out there with Chris Barnes, former teammate Chris Barnes, doing their annual football camp. He posted these on Instagram. And again, just a leader in the locker room, out of the locker room. I just love the fact that Jordan Love is the Green Bay Packers quarterback. So just such an awesome thing. When you look around the league, and I usually don't do this, but I will right now. Kyler Murray, he's not a leader,
No.
Caleb Williams laying on the ground and acting a fool, and now he came out recently and said,
"Wait a minute, you never played Call of Duty with Kyler Murray? I mean, that's leadership, man.
That's leadership. You're right.
Leader.
Yeah, and I mean, you just look at some of the QBs across the league, and then you look at ours, and it's like, man, this dude fighting through injury last year, and I know there's always going to be the Sean Clifford guys out there. We remember that first year when they were calling for Sean Clifford halfway through the season or whatever it was, right? And I believe it was Sean Clifford. Was it not Sean Clifford, or who was it? Yeah, it was Sean Clifford, right? So people were calling for him to come off the bench when Jordan was struggling there his first year starting. I think we got the real deal at QB, man. There's no doubt in my mind. So,
for sure.
All right. Anything else on the
Chris Barnes playing in Arizona now? I think.
I heard he was. Yeah. Chris Barnes was one I liked a lot when he was on the team, and I thought he had a lot of upside. But boy, oh boy, they got rid of him pretty quick, and I guess he never did really live up to that starter standard in Green Bay.
Yeah.
What do you think about? Oh, sorry about that.
You good? Go ahead, man. You good?
What do you think about Chris saying that I'd love to see love grow into a more vocal leader in 2025? Do you see him stepping into a more of a rah kind of voiced opinion? Because it just seems a little.
Yeah, I don't mean to laugh, Jacob, but this is what people hated about Aaron.
Yeah.
It's like Aaron just needs to shut up and play his position. He needs not worry about everything else, blah, blah. And then Aaron's gone, and now it's you got the quiet leader in Jordan. It's how this ain't a shot at Chris. I'm just saying this is normal. This is where we go. We go from one side, shut up and play ball, to he needs to be more vocal. I would love to see him be more vocal, but I love that Aaron was vocal. I love that Aaron got on people's asses when they weren't in the right spot. I love that Aaron got on Josh Myers' ass when he, didn't snap the ball. Like, you need that. I respond to that personally. What I don't respond to is the person. I'm not saying J Love's like this. I think he's getting better at being more vocal, but I respond to the person. Look, if I'm doing something wrong, tell me. I'm a man. I'm 40. You know what I mean? That's that great person said. I'm a man. I'm 40. Like, tell me what I need to do, and let's go out here and win the damn ball game. I don't need a little pat on the ass. It's going to be okay. I don't understand that, man. You look at the great players in the history of the game, they didn't operate that way. And Tom Brady demanded excellence. Excellence. He was one of the.
That is weird.
But Jordan's got to find his own way to do that, right? If he's going to take that step, it's got to be his version of whatever that is. He can't just magically turn into some fire and brimstone guy, because nobody's gonna take that seriously. It's going to come off inauthentic. It much like what the Denver Broncos dealt with Russell Wilson when he walked in there and tried to be this guy that everybody knew he wasn't, and it didn't last long. It was a dumpster fire, right? So I would hate to see Jordan overcorrect, but I think Chris is right. And I believe it was Coach LaFleur, or it might have been Goody. Somebody publicly made that comment not too long ago too, that they were looking to Jordan here to step up and be more vocal in that huddle and in that locker room as a leader. And I think we might see that this year.
Yeah. Have you guys ever been in any sort of like sports situation, or even maybe a work situation, where like some random person who's clearly not the leader will speak up and try to give like this rah speech, and you're all just like, shut the what is he doing? And you're just kind of, it's just awkward. It's like, I would hate for him, like Tim said, to overcorrect and drift into anywhere into that type of lane where it was phony, where he's like, I feel like I have to do this or be seen as this type of way. He kind of reminds me more of like a Rashawn Gary, where it's like every now and then you have pockets where Gary will scare the hell out of you. Yeah. But most of the time it's quiet, reserved, and he leads by example.
Yeah. And then when he does speak up, everybody just stops and listens, because it has so much weight. And I think that's a great comparison. I could see Jordan taking that kind of route, that, he's a lead by example, work ethic. He's a pretty calm, cool, collected guy, but hey, it might be time to bring that fire a little bit, at the right time. So hopefully we see him make that jump.
Typically the loudest person in the room has the least amount to say. Period. Case closed. So when you don't overstep those boundaries, when it is time to say something, people shut up and listen. I remember, I think it was training camp last year, or maybe the year before. No, it was last year, Jeff Hafley's first year in training camp. Rashawn Gary didn't just go out there and just start eating everybody's lunch. He went to Haf and said, "Hey, do you mind if I say something here?" And Hafley's like, "Heck yeah, go." And he's, stepped in there and said something, and it has more of an effect. I'll give you an example. Mike Daniels, totally the opposite. All he did was talk and just, I'm bad. We're going to be, remember he said, we're going to turn this defense into one that hits people in the mouth and this and that. They didn't go out there and hit nobody in the mouth. And what happened? Mike Daniels is gone because everybody got tired of the rah-rah crap. I've heard it was Aaron Rodgers and another teammate talking about, AJ Hawk talking about that. Yeah, you remember we used to have a guy on the team. I think he was talking about Mike Daniels personally. Because that stuff goes through one ear and out the other. AJ talks about it on the McAfee show all the time. He's like, yeah, you get that guy in the team meeting. As soon as he says, I got something to say, everybody goes, oh, God. Because he does it all the time. And you can tell it's about him. It's not about making the team better. It's, here's my time to shine. Let me get a little attention on myself. That type of thing. It's the worst. It can have a totally opposite effect on the team. And you got to show people that you care. You got to show people you're willing to work and put it, like when Rashawn Gary speaks up, it matters, because what do? He battled I don't care what fans say, he battled his ass off to get back from that ACL in record time and contribute to the team. And all he did was went out there and be the best pass rusher on the team. Right. And it's like, people will listen to that because he's got the pelts on the wall. People will listen to that because it's like, this dude he did. You could tell it wasn't about, well, let me just sit back and make sure my knee's right. It's, I want to get back out there with my guys, is what it came down to. So I think that stuff is absolutely huge. And I think Aaron did that too at times in Green Bay. I really do. Mm-hmm. It just the thing with Aaron there toward the end, and here's, I want to say this about Aaron too, because again, Jordan talked about how he was his mentor and this and that earlier today on Up at Adams. When you look at how the whole Aaron Rodgers thing happened, people like to say we fleeced the Jets, right? Rightfully so. We won that trade, no two ways about it. But did we get what we wanted? I mean, seriously, for us to sit here and act like arrogant fans, like, yeah, well, look how good we are. We haven't made it as far as we did with Aaron yet, right? So I kind of go, hey, let's slow the roll. Let's get over that hump. Let's at least get back to the NFC Championship before we start pounding our chest like we made the absolute right move. That's just the way I look at that. But I would rather us be less vocal as a fan base. And yeah, you fleeced the Jets. That's great. That's like you went over and took a sucker out of a 2-year-old's hand that was in a stroller. Like they don't know whether to crap or go blind, so they close one eye and fart. That's their team motto over there. So just the whole thing, like pretending like, yeah, look how much better off we are. I don't see it that way. I don't. And I don't think Aaron being here would have made the difference. I love the Jordan Love pick. I love it. Like when they drafted him, I wasn't doing a podcast at the time. I wish I was, because y'all would have heard me go, hell yes. Yeah. That's when you draft a quarterback.
Traded up to get him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and again, because you've got those, it's talking about traits over production or production over traits. When it comes to quarterback, man, those traits don't just come attached to every quarterback, right? So you've got to go with the traits, develop them the right way. I think Goody did it at the right time. So don't take that the wrong way, for sure. So Elder Grimm says that's the thing I've noticed with us Packer fans. We're either really nice or extremely entitled, LOL. Yeah, but hey, man, when you got, what is it, 10, 13 championships you always talk about, sir? When you get that many championships, it's easy to feel like you're, you know what I mean? Like, hey, we're at the top of the mountain. But like Tom Brady said, somebody asked him, which one's your favorite ring? He said the next one, right? He said he heard that at Michigan. I think it was a coach said that at Michigan. He asked that coach at Michigan, which one's your favorite title? He said the next one. That's the mentality you got.
That's the mentality you need in this new age NFL too, because it used to be, oh, well, you never won a Super Bowl. Got to win a Super Bowl to be in the conversation. Then you win a Super Bowl, and then everyone says, oh, you only had one. You only had one ring. It's always about what's the next move, And it's a great example, Tommy Brady, with that quote. It's just classic. Yeah,
definitely. All right. So there you go. We went a lot longer on that than I expected, but I'm glad we hit on it, man, for sure. I want to get into a comment that Dane Brugler made, Tim. So if you can get me another screen grab ready, you can use the same one. Actually, give me the Halfley. Well, I don't know. Give me the LaFleur and Halfley. There you go. Because I definitely don't want the Halfley one where it looks like he's looking like, what the heck's this guy talking about? Yeah, not that. Yeah, that's the one we want right there. So here was Dane Brugler. I seen it come across the wire earlier today. Shout out to @Hogg HOGG NFL. He's the one who tweeted it out, and I'm not sure where he got it from, but looks like it was This Is Football. Maybe it's called This Is Football Podcast. But Dane Brugler, one of the best in the business. You guys see we're using a lot of his scouting write-ups. I think he does an excellent job. He says, Dane Brugler says Will Johnson is a player who might get drafted lower than expected. Quote, there are enough question marks that a team like the Packers could end up getting a really good player there later in the first round. Let's see what he had to say about Will Johnson.
The other one is Will Johnson from Michigan, who was, I think a lot of people viewed him as a top 5 pick coming into the year, but not the questions about the long speed. And then, we talked earlier about not having the testing. He has not tested throughout the process, hasn't run a 40. Now he's supposed to work out next week for scouts. But I had a scout text me just last week about it and say, I'll bet you a lot of money. He does positional workouts, but doesn't run the 40. And we might not have a 40-yard dash from him. And when it's a stopwatch position, and when you don't have a 40-yard dash from a corner, that creates some doubt. And so if Will Johnson is still available in the 20s, I don't think that should really surprise anybody. He's a good player, but there are enough question marks that a team like the Packers could end up getting a really good player there later in the first round.
All right, so there you go. I just wanted to hit on that real quick because we kind of talked about Will Johnson a little bit, right? I'm going to drop this down and go back to the big board. And I want to get your all's take on Will Johnson here. and whether you think you would be okay if somehow, some way, Will Johnson makes it to the 23rd pick. Would you be okay with the Packers taking him? Now, when we look at our big board, Will Johnson is in the 10 spot. Sign me up. Now, you look at the red boxes, that's a concern, right? The injuries have been a problem over the last 2 years. People look at Savone Rebel like the injuries are a concern. Down here, you see in the 26th spot, right? I don't see that as much a concern because he's now healthy from that. And we kind of debunked all the injuries in high school and all those problems. It was from a damn car wreck is what happened in high school. It was in a really, really bad car wreck in with his family, and had some head trauma, this and that. Obviously, that hasn't spilled into his college career. But in terms of the ACL, he's fast tracking to get back. But again, back to Will Johnson, when you look at him, other than the injuries, guys, in the 10 spot, PFF in 2022 was 12th best. Then he drops to 113. He drops to 114 at his position, right? But the PFF big board at the end of the college football season still had him in the 6th spot. The consensus big board still had him in the 6th spot. Daniel Jeremiah here recently in the 12th spot when he released his top 50 for the first time, right? Kyle Krabs had him at number 2 when he released his first top 100 list. Dane Brugler had him at 13 on his initial list. So the 3 people that we say we trust the most in Daniel Jeremiah, Kyle Krabs, and Dane Brugler, along with Greg Cosell, who gave him a 5-point bonus, they all say dude's phenomenal, right? The thing that's bringing him down to the PFF grades in injury-riddled seasons there. So that's one I would love to see them bring in for a top 30 visit to put my mind at ease. But if they don't bring him for a top 30 visit, Jacob, it kind of feels like he might be off their board. What do you think about Will Johnson there potentially at 23?
Yeah, it's tough because, like you said, when healthy, he's amazing. It's just that phrase I really am getting sick of hearing, when healthy. We've been plagued by that phrase on both sides of the ball for quite a while, and I think most teams are. We always look at the Packers as if like we're with a magnifying glass, and we don't realize that the other teams are a lot of times going through the exact same stuff we are, but we're just so focused on what we know and what we see every day and what we read and what we harp on. But me personally, if I'm the GM of the Packers, Will Johnson's completely off my board. He's got too many different injuries. Unless he really does fall like into the 2nd, then great. But for me, if he's supposed to be around the 10th pick and he falls to the 23rd, you're still taking that much more risk on a first round guy that I don't believe the injuries dictate he should be a first round pick, just because, I think it was like somebody mentioned, it was 2 different hip surgeries. I think there was a few other major injuries in between there. And it's just like, I love the competition he went against. I love the way that everybody describes him. Obviously, every single person that we respect, as you just highlighted, thinks that he's a great player. It's just when healthy. And that phrase is kind of makes shivers down my spine.
I'm somewhere in the middle. I agree with you to an extent, especially with the sentiment that taking him at 23 would be certainly not a reach, but a risk, I think, if he falls and he's there. But I don't think I'm taking him off my board, because if he falls even later, or if he falls to the early 2nd round, now I'm thinking a little bit. And the thing with him is, he had a minor shoulder injury last year, which is a concern because he's kind of a leaner, lighter framed corner, right? But severe turf toe. And we dealt with that with Tay Adams his last couple of seasons with us, missed a handful of games. It sounds like a really minor type of injury until you've ever had it, and it's excruciatingly painful, and it's difficult to move. So that's what knocked him out of, most of last season. And here we are, you got guys begging him to run a 40. Well, I think I know why he's not running a 40. He's got turf toe, and it's still bothering him. So those are legitimate concerns, especially when you're talking about that position, especially when you look at his attributes and his ability to, get up and be physical and play a little press man when needed, and also be a good, feet moving, eyes on the quarterback zone cover guy. If you don't have that footwork down because you're dealing with a nagging ankle or turf toe or any of those kind of lower leg injuries, I think that's enough of a concern that I don't take him at 23. That's just my opinion. Not taking him off my board, but I'm not grabbing him at 23.
Got it. And for me, I think I'm on the opposite side. Like, if Goody takes him at 23, he's not worried about the injury. I think we would all agree with that, right? So if the injuries check out, yeah, but you got to get him in house to check him out, right? So that's why I think highly unlikely at 23, but it's very, very, very interesting to think about for sure. King Tron in the chat said Johnson's full of red flags. Like and share. Y'all appreciate that. If y'all would take a quick second, like the stream, feel free to share it with a friend. If you don't have a friend, you get a bunch of friends here. Just don't share it with us because we're already in here. So appreciate you being a member for 4 months there, Tron. You are the man. Coach Lynn said, do we worry about his speed? Coach, tonight, do me a favor, man. It could be a highlight reel. Go find Will Johnson tape and tell me if you're worried about the speed. Because I'm telling you right now, when I hear, and I think, who was it here? Somebody said, I think we already took it off there. Why would he not run? I had it marked. But anyway, said, why would he not run? Because it can only hurt his stock.
Yep.
It can only hurt his stock. Like, I understand why these guys don't run. I get it. And if you want to be one of those people that would say, well, if you're not going to run, you're not going to perform, I'm taking you off the board. I completely understand that opinion too. But if I'm a player and I'm already ranked in the top 10, the top 15, why would I run and risk lowering my stock? It just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. So I kind of see both sides of the coin there. But, Coach, do that, man. Go watch the tape and tell me if you worry about his speed. Because I was thinking the same thing. Went and turned on. I think I heard Ryan talking the same thing on his pod the other day. It was like, yeah, his speed is not a problem. And he's got some stride length there as well. So, go ahead.
Sorry, Draft Buzz has him listed as a 4.56 40. Not exactly sure where those clocked.
Those always crack me up, man. Yeah, because it's like they're just firing from the damn hip every time.
They're watching game film with the stopwatch,
right? Trying to clock it. Yeah. He Soder says cornerback is where the run will hit after the first one not named Hunter goes. That's exactly right. Completely agree, Soder. Ron Sample says, I'm on the opposite side. I'd pick Johnson in a heartbeat. I can understand that too, man, because, again, our board's saying top 10 talent. It's mainly because the people that we trust were so high on him, before he chose not to run, right? That was the big thing. Now, is it a little weird how he said, hey, I'm going to have a personal workout. You guys come watch, and everybody gets there, and he goes, I ain't running 40. That's you could have handled that a little bit better. You could have let him know up front, like, if you're coming to watch me run the 40, I'm not going to do it, just so you guys know up front. So that's probably the better way of handling that. But he's an interesting prospect for sure, man. Watch him turn around and go like number 3 or so. Watch him go over Travis Hunter. That'd be hilarious. Wouldn't it? Just surprised everybody and just went at the top of the draft.
And then Jaire Barron falls to us at 23. We take him. I'm cool with that.
Dude, last night, I know tonight Jacob's gonna run the mock draft tonight. We're gonna give him a shot at getting roasted online. But last night Emilio did it, and sure enough, Jaire Barron fell right in his lap. I was like, look at this crap, right? It didn't happen for any of us before.
Where did he take Dolak?
Did
he take him?
We didn't. We took your boy Torrey Horton, though.
He did. Bro, did you you didn't listen to the
third round, right? Didn't we pick Horton in the third?
I think so. We broke down Torrey Horton on the show. I think it was yesterday, Jacob. You need to go back and listen to it, dude. Dog.
I know. That's my guy.
Diving into that was a lot of fun, man. So I'm on the Torrey Horton train now for sure. So, all right, that's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side for hour 2, where we're going to talk a little offensive line. We appreciate y'all.